What's good, Adam? It is meme coin season, bro. Were you aping on Pump.Fun as you usually do over the weekend?
No, I was getting rugged. I don't know if I've ever made money on Pump.Fun. I gotta say, man, I think I've been rugged probably 30 times on Pump.Fun. I don't know if I've had a couple. I guess I've had a couple go live, so maybe I got out at a little profit there. But no, Pump.Fun is it's the most ruggy of rug fests in the history of rugs. Like, it's impossible. I unless you are like a cabal of guys, or I don't know, unless you're organized
like alpha group.
Yeah, if you're an alpha group rugging people, like, I'm sure you make money there. But for regular people who are like trying to like, oh, that's a funny meme, let's do that one, and then it's like, oh no, guess what? You just lost all your money. Yeah, I mean, it's just that's all it is. So it's like I don't know, it's speed running rugs. So I encourage people to do it just to understand what's actually taking place here, which is just, rugs, people, PvP. This is like battle survival of the fittest. But who would have thought like meme stocks would be coming back? That's the crazy news. I mean, when I saw that, I just was like, I saw him, I don't know, what was it, maybe 48 hours ago now, when he made that first post, popped up on my timeline. I was like, oh my God, there's got to be some meme coins. Bro, they were already at like 2-3 million. I was like, oh man, those are like those. I faded those, of course. And some of those, like, I don't know, Roaring Kitty or something, dude. I faded it at like 2 million. It hit like, I don't know, 70 million or something yesterday. I was like, God damn. So yeah, I faded that stuff, but
I just have to say, I love your trajectory over the last 6 months or so, from just being anti-meme coins to restarting one of the largest meme coins that exists right now. At least we're talking about Bell's coin, and then the transition to just aping on Pump.Fun and following every little meme from Roaring Kitty to random even distribution pre-sales.
Well, at the end of the day, it is like it's actually relatively fair, unless you get this stuff that's going on Pump.Fun, obviously, but it can be relatively fair, and at least everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody's playing the same kind of game. So in that way, it's kind of, it's legit. And the thing is, I mean, like with who was I talking? I was talking to somebody maybe yesterday, and we're talking about, oh, well, would you buy the stock, right? If do I go buy GameStop, right? Or do I ape into the meme coin, which is like, the version of GameStop, the agreed upon social consensus version of GameStop, whatever that may be. Where's my best possible return as a retail investor? Dude, it's not even close. I mean, it's like the risk you're going to take on the GameStop actual stock, like, you maybe best case scenario, world-class return, get a 4x. Bro, in crypto, you might get 1,000x. I mean, it's just the risk return is so much better in crypto, in my view. So it's a no-brainer for me where to play.
Hey, absolutely love it. One of our guests is FluidTokens. I've been trying to invite you on stage, so make sure that you accept that so that we can have this kind of conversation. Until then, I will make the rounds. Chris, GM to you, man. Happy Tuesday. How was your weekend, bro?
Yo, pretty good weekend, man. Just finally some excitement coming back to the market. Like, crypto, we are in such a small bubble, and so little things like this that kind of like, reach out to the outer world and kind of show that, some of this is like a different form of entertainment. A lot of people have been comparing it to kind of sports betting these days and things like that. And, crypto for a lot of people hasn't really been fun, because it was really down only for so many people for, since 2021. So just kind of feel that energy reinvigorating, and, the energy around Roaring Kitty, and showing people, that some of this is just kind of like, some of it is investing, but it's also just, an alternative form of entertainment as well. And so I think, it's bringing a lot of energy, much needed energy, back to the markets. Good weekend for me overall.
Yeah, I agree as well. I always say Twitter is way more entertaining than anything Netflix puts up.
Zero question about that, man. Just check your screen time. It's like, bro, it's so obvious.
Pure gold and comedy. And last but certainly not least, one of our favorite co-hosts, Dogfather, man. How was your weekend? And tell us a little bit about the trend of runes that you've been consistently updating the world on.
GM. Yeah, I mean, weekend was great. I mean, the market is kind of like relatively quiet, consolidating. So people with like patience counted in days, they get out, and people that have like a bit of a week or month horizon stay inside, like always. So we have a new token standard. Surprisingly, it's more volatile than Bitcoin. So yeah. So I mean, what can you say, right? I mean, builders build, so they're shipping stuff, but it takes a while. It was a brand new kind of protocol, changed like a few days even before the launch, so people could not really build stuff. So everything is pretty like premature still. And there's the alpha, right? So I'm still bullish. I mean, if you just listen to what people were like saying, including Casey at Bitcoin Asia and Ordinals Asia, man, if you don't get it, all right, then buy a bit later. You know, like Adam was saying, you look at the token at 2 million, then overnight it's at 70. But that's like meme coins, right? I mean, they can go through the roof every day. So position yourself, make yourself familiar with such a standard. I don't think that fungible tokens or Bitcoin will go away. I think that the official like runes protocol by Casey and the team has, you know, the biggest edge out of all the protocols, including BRC20. So yeah, position yourself wisely. Don't fade. Be a bit patient, and I think it will be fun, right? I mean, we will have some fun later this year.
Yeah, it sounds like Ordinals Asia was a really good time. A lot of focus on, it sounded like Bitcoin L2s and DeFi applications. And this is one of the reasons why we're having these conversations. Last week during the show, we were talking about how runes had a mini pump and then is just basically fallen off the cliff. And what one of the realizations has been is that the infrastructure is not up to the standard or up to par to non-crypto or non-Bitcoin natives. So those who are familiar with trading on a DEX like Uniswap or borrowing on Arcade or whatever DeFi applications that have existed on Ethereum for the last 4 years and now on Solana, that has not made its way over to Bitcoin yet. And therefore, that outside capital has not made its way. And this is why we're seeing all the prices fall off the cliff. To my surprise, you know, we saw recently FluidTokens was kind of one of the first few quote unquote DeFi applications to come to runes and to the ordinal space. So I wanted to try and get a handful of these builders on the show so we can understand how the back end is working and how we onboard new users to the space. I think this will be a good conversation with FluidTokens. After doing some research, it turns out that this is a group of Cardano builders who has made their way over to Bitcoin. As you know, Cardano also uses a varied form of the UTXO model. So it sounds like there's a lot of similarities there. So I want to say hello to FluidTokens and we'll get this conversation underway. How are you doing, guys?
Hey, Jake. Hey, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. And I'm really excited to be here. It's a good opportunity and a good moment to build and also to speak with the community about what we are doing. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing great. You know, it's funny, over the last year, I've been in the ordinal space and have seen, you know, a handful of different products come to market from DeFi, from, you know, off-chain, on-chain indexers, EVM contracts, SVM contracts. There's a whole host, and builders have come from a variety of backgrounds, from Bitcoin SV to just Bitcoin natives to Ethereum, Solana. ICP, I think you guys are the first Cardano builders that I've seen migrate over to Bitcoin, and there are some similarities. So let's start there. And would you like to just give us a little bit of, you know, a background story of what FluidTokens are and the and building on Cardano before moving over to Bitcoin?
Sure, absolutely. So FluidTokens was born 2 years ago on Cardano, and we started as a peer-to-peer lending platform using NFTs as collateral. So at the beginning, we were starting to learn as soon as Cardano smart contracts arrived on mainnet. We studied and we tried to understand how we could deliver a DeFi product on Cardano. And these 2 years have been really interesting because we have been able to learn how to handle the UTXOs, how to optimize the transaction for the user's perspective, but also for a DeFi perspective, because sometimes it's not that easy to understand it. When you have, for instance, an account model on Ethereum, you can easily say how much tokens are in an account, but with UTXOs, instead you have to account for each of the UTXOs in the smart contract, for instance, or in a user wallet. And recently, actually, we started in February. We said, okay, but let's start to study how Bitcoin ordinals are building their stuff there, because there is a lot of similarities between Cardano and Bitcoin. In general, I would say that it's from the transaction perspective, where you have the inputs and the outputs. On Cardano, you have smart contracts, but on Bitcoin, you have a partially signed transaction, for instance, that we are commonly using them on Magic Eden, for instance, for listing our ordinals or our runes lately. And our major, let's say, step and what we had to learn was, of course, learning how to interact with the wallets, the Bitcoin wallets, and studying how the transactions worked and what were the best indexers, for instance, and so on. And we are really happy because even if we, for instance, missed the opportunity to build when ordinals launched, we are here building when runes launched. We recently have, for instance, released, and maybe we will talk a bit more in details later, the first version of our DEX for runes. It's still in a pre-market phase, but this means that we have a good opportunity here. First of all, we can deliver something for Bitcoin community. I think that the trading runes experience right now is lacking some tools. And at the same time, we can showcase our skills with UTXOs and show our talents, let's say. I see that there is a question.
Yeah, so on the live stream here, I'm browsing through the FluidTokens. This is the one that's built on Cardano. There's a handful of DeFi and NFTFi products here. So I'll just list a few of them for those that are listening. There's NFT liquidity pools, lending and borrowing. You can rent NFTs, and then it looks like there's a staking mechanism as well here. Could you just, before we do move into Bitcoin, I just want to build a strong foundation of some of the products that you've built here. Tell us a little bit about these NFT liquidity pools. You know, they do pop up. They have popped up on ETH a few years ago, and they've made their way onto Solana. They're not terribly popular comparative to, you know, fungible token liquidity pools. But why build a product around liquidity pools for NFTs? And then it looks like you're actually going to bring these over to Bitcoin at some point in time, at least from the documentation that I'm reading.
Yes, correct. So when you are lending out liquidity against NFTs in general, but this can be thought even for ordinals, you have to think about this. Do you want to create multiple offers for NFTs, or do you want to manage one pool where you can set the parameters? What does it mean? Let's say that, for instance, I would like to offer 1 Bitcoin against a particular NFT. But I have 10 Bitcoin, so I would like to create 10 offers. So 1 Bitcoin each. And when you know there are some price fluctuations regarding this NFT collection, I will probably have to update the listing price of my offer because I don't want to under collateralize my offer of liquidity. And if instead of having multiple offers, you have one liquidity pool where people can borrow against their NFTs, this is much quicker to handle for the lender perspective because he can change the parameters of the pool in one specific transaction or interaction at least. And this is the main case scenario. So it's not a common liquidity pool where every lender is depositing, but it's more like every lender can create his own pool, and borrowers will pick the liquidity from the best one at that moment. And in this way, from the lender perspective, you can manage liquidity in an optimal way. From the borrower perspective, instead, you can always borrow from the best liquidity pool available at the moment. So this is the description of our service in that case.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that explanation. Dogfather has a question. What's up, bro?
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. So I just know what's happening already, like with Liquidium. So they have the DCLs. So you have individual kind of like offers, and then you have to sign them again. And that's a bit tedious. So what you're describing seems definitely more advanced. But what are the technical like trade-offs in terms of like security-wise? So how do you handle that? In the back.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about Liquidium experience, for instance, I think that on that side, there is one signature coming from the lender and an additional signature coming from the borrower, if I'm not wrong, something like that. And on FluidTokens instead, right now, you have 3 signatures. So we have an additional one. The experience is not, let's say, fast as we can imagine in other blockchains. But at the same time, we are, in this way, we achieve having no dependence on a DLC or an oracle. How is this done? So borrower and lenders agree on the terms for the loan, but also for the repayment before starting every interaction on the chain. So they sign all the steps that will occur in this loan process. The loan start, the repayment one. And in this way, the borrower is able to pay back without having to rely on the platform, because he has already the repayment transaction signed by the lender, or the lender can claim the ordinal at the end of the loan period without having to ask permission to the platform or to the borrower itself. So as you see here, we avoid DLC dependence, but we added an additional step to the flow. And so this is the major drawback that you can see, like a slower interaction to get a loan, but at the same time, a completely permissionless, like avoiding oracles, avoiding DLC. It's completely peer-to-peer. We as platform are only facilitating this interaction between borrower and lenders, but we cannot touch any fund or any ordinal collateral and so on in every step that is happening.
Can you give me like, this is Adam, by the way, speaking through Jake's mic, but can you give me like, it's confusing to me, but so I would say, can you give just the like normies explanation of what's actually happening behind the scenes? Is this like is it a multi-sig wallet that the loan goes into and the asset goes into, or how does it actually work from like a normie perspective, technically?
Yeah, absolutely. So for normie perspective, we have liquidity and we have the collateral. And let's say that me, Raul, and you, Jake, want to start a loan. I will provide the liquidity and you will provide your favorite ordinal. So first of all, before setting up everything, we decide when is the deadline, how much is the liquidity before starting. Once we have the deadline, we can set up a multi-signature wallet that has these following rules. After our deadline, I am able to claim anything that is in this multi-sig wallet. But before the deadline, you, Jake, are able to claim the ordinal if you pay back to me. Okay? So this is the rule, the basic rule overview. Now let's go a bit more deep, because this condition that allows you to unlock if you pay me back is actually a transaction that me as a lender have to approve before starting the loan. And when I approve this repayment, you are able to claim the ordinal paying back to me. And you are able to start the loan only if I approve this repayment. Because if I don't approve it, you could say, yes, okay, I'm sending the ordinal there and you are sending the liquidity, but how can I be sure that I will be able to unlock it if I pay back? Well, as a lender, I am able to sign this transaction, this repayment transaction, and you are able to claim back your ordinal thanks to this. So we are signing and accepting every possible interaction that will happen after when we start this loan. And so you as borrower are 100% sure that you will be able to claim your ordinal when you pay back.
So where are these accepting? Where are these like the accepting of the rules and stuff? Where is that taking place on an L2 on Bitcoin? How's that actually happening?
No. This is, meanwhile, I will pin the tweet while we explain with the paper, because it's happening on a layer 1. So first of all, our documentation, our code is completely open source. In this way, you can always verify what's happening behind the scenes. And second thing is that this is a quasi-similar behavior to a smart contract. Why? Because the first rule, let's say the basic one, that is, if before the deadline, this multi-sig has both our signatures. After the deadline, only the lender signature. This is a rule that can be done native on Bitcoin without having to use layer 2 or without having to rely on other chains. The additional step is the if condition, so allowing you to withdraw when you pay me back. Because, as I just said, the multi-signature has this rule. Before the deadline, it requires both our signatures, mine and yours. But since I'm approving the repayment, so I'm already signing the repayment before, you are able to use just your signatures to unlock it, because my signature is already there. It's a signature that for a transaction that is paying me back to me and sending the ordinal to you from that wallet. And yes, tell me if you have questions, otherwise I keep going.
Yeah, here. So I have here pulled up on the live stream. It says that the processor, what you guys use, is called Bitweave. Do I have that correct? Is this the, it says Bitweave's Bitcoin smart contracts on L1. I'll just read the abstract. It looks like you guys published this just a few months ago. It says FluidTokens introduces Bitweave, a revolutionary approach to leverage transactions on the Bitcoin network to create smart contract behavior directly on Bitcoin's main layer. The innovative protocol eliminates the need for intermediaries and enables permissionless interactions between parties. Bitweave paves the way for the development of various DeFi protocols on Bitcoin, including the first fully permissionless lending protocol. And then just goes on with a bunch of graphics, which I have here pulled up on the live stream. So do I have this correct that FluidTokens on Bitcoin is operating under what you guys are calling Bitweave?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly explaining what I just said. All the interaction possible, replicating a smart contract behavior.
Okay, cool. Cool that I have that correct. And then it looks like from here, it says underneath there that the protocol is leveraging determinism and PSBTs. Is there a way, and then right underneath it says on-chain enforcement through a Bitcoin script. So it looks like these are the kind of the two pieces of how this operates. And again, this is public information. It is on your guys' website, so anyone can go ahead and read this. Could you just walk us through, and maybe a little bit more simplistic terms, what does that actually mean, leveraging determinism and PSBTs? And then how does the on-chain enforcement through Bitcoin script work?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we speak about determinism, we mean this. On Bitcoin, once you fix the inputs and the outputs of the transaction, also the fee, the hash of the transaction is always the same. And this is really important and useful. So this means that if a transaction reaches the mainnet, the chain, no matter when, no matter which blocks, the hash is always going to be the same, okay? And this is commonly used by the wallets, in my experience right now. When you send Bitcoin to someone and you want to do another transaction, if you check, even if the one that you sent before is in the mempool not verified yet, the new one is consuming and spending the first one. So even if it's not yet on the chain, we can already spend it somehow. We can already create a transaction that is using it. And this is good because otherwise, imagine the pain, having to wait 10 minutes because I just sent a transaction before doing another one. So this is heaven for us. And this is exactly what we do on FluidTokens, because if we are creating a loan transaction and the hash of this loan is already known because we are setting the terms, this means that you can already create the repayment transaction because it's going to come from this one. The collateral is locked and is locked in the loan transaction, and the repayment is going to consume from the loan transaction. So this means that we can create the repayment and the loan transaction before submitting them. In this way, we can agree on both terms with similar to a smart contract. And this is answering regarding the determinism of Bitcoin.
Yeah, quite interesting. Another thing that I've found, so there's two different components here. For under leveraging determinism PSBT, it says that a user can predict locally off-chain how their transaction will impact the on-chain state of ledger, in particular the transaction ID. And then under on-chain enforcement through Bitcoin script, it says the conditions to spend the possible outcome generated by Bitweave are explicitly enforced on-chain through the Bitcoin scripting language. This is the most interesting part. By embedding conditional logic directly into the transaction outputs, Bitweave ensures trustless execution without the need for intermediaries. My question here would be, if logic is being embedded into transaction output, how is that logic being read? Is there like an off-chain indexer that is reading that language and then pushing it to the FluidTokens protocol? Just give a little bit of an explanation. And the reason why I ask is it's interesting because, I've personally also worked on a Bitcoin DeFi protocol for quite a while that's similar. And as we've come to learn over the last year and a half or so, building on Bitcoin through ordinals and runes, there has to be some component of off-chain, or some off-chain component to this. This could be using something like a VM or a smart contract on Ethereum, right? That's off-chain of Bitcoin, but it's on-chain on another blockchain. Or right, the initial thing is to use an indexer or some sort of local central server. How is this logic being read if it's embedded into a transaction output?
Yes, so you're actually right, because on the on-chain, what you can set is just some sort of rules about who can spend the transaction, maybe adding a time constraint or the signatures that are required. So these are the possible constraints that you can put directly on chain. Because, for instance, as I said before, the collateral is going to this multi-signature that is regulated by lender and borrower. However, we want to enforce an additional rule, the repayment one. And this is handled off-chain, but using partially signed transaction. What does it mean? It means that the lender creating the repayment transaction and providing it to the borrower enables the borrower to be able to pay back whenever he wants. And actually, even without using the platform, if he's techy enough, let's say. But as you said, in this case, we have this additional rule that needs to be somewhere. So right now, for instance, it's stored on the FluidTokens platform. However, it could be essentially being posted and written on the ledger as sort of ordinal, for instance, and every borrower is able to pay back without having even to rely on FluidTokens database of this partially signed transaction. And it's interesting because even if it's public, only the borrower can use it to get back his ordinal. So it's not a private content, let's say. And this is how the flow works.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Just to read another part, just to confirm what you're saying. In this white paper, it says borrowers and lenders engage in off-chain communication to negotiate and sign loan and repayment transactions. The off-chain interaction streamlines the loan process while minimizing on-chain congestion and costs. You know, and then down below it says future developments, right? Integration of oracles, sovereign layer 1 protocols, and then runes integration. You know, before we do kind of dive into maybe the philosophy of runes and Bitcoin, you know, there's a handful of, well, I guess you would be the second to the market in terms of in ordinals or a Bitcoin NFT focused lending platform on Bitcoin. The other one being Liquidium that uses oracles and DLCs. I just wanted to get your take on, you know, oracles and DLCs, why you did not pursue that route and went for something, you know, a little bit more custom to maybe your guys' background of building with UTXOs on Cardano. Was there anything in terms of DLCs and oracles that shunned you away from going that direction, or was there something more positive with this current route with PSBTs and determinism?
So yes, actually, we wanted first to showcase what is possible and also to experiment without having to rely on, in this case, oracles. Because, well, at least we on other chains had a bad experience with oracles, like some liquidation happening and so on. But in our case, we want to start with determinism and PSBT, and then allow oracles to get instant liquidity. What do we mean by this? So right now you have to create this, let's say, multiple signatures requirement from borrower and lender. But if you have an oracle that is checking what the borrower is trying to do with the liquidity, and if the requirements from the borrower, like the amount of the liquidity, the collateral, are legit, the oracle can approve the transaction for the lender. And this means that the borrower is able to get liquidity in one transaction instantly, let's say. And this is a very good case of oracles, for instance. And so we are not saying that oracles are bad. We just wanted to start with experimenting something new and delivering a new experience. and then we can innovate from there.
Interesting. What's up, Dogfather?
Yeah, I'm a data nerd, and then I looked at your DApp, at your website. So I was curious about the total loan volume already kind of like going through the system, because I couldn't find any of that. And another thing that popped up is if I see some of the liquidity pools for like Node Monkeys or other blue chip collections, these offers look extremely small, so they will never be triggered. So these are just like the two things that popped up to my eyes when I was checking the website. Maybe you can shed some light on these two issues.
Yes. So regarding the TVL of our platform, we are going to add a stats page. But right now we are still under 1 Bitcoin, slightly under 1 Bitcoin as volume. No, sorry, not slightly, under 0.1 Bitcoin. Yeah, this is the right data. And but we are not pushing a lot these days in the marketing, because before we want to release a new service and tool, we are polishing a bit also the fees selection, because we had one possible fee, for instance, on the platform, but as we saw on the Rune explosion, those fees went to the roof. And so right now we are also adding this to our platform. And together with the DEX that we are keen to launch before end of the month, then we will start to push a lot to increase this TVL. So this is regarding the first question. The second one, instead, we are going to add, first of all, a filter to filter out small offers. And second, at least a minimum of requirement for liquidity pools to be created. Otherwise, it doesn't even make sense, even not just for the borrower, but even for the lender. The transaction is not going to be filled soon enough.
So just so I understand, so so say I'm a lender. So I would basically select the pool I want to lend to. So I'd say, okay, I want to lend to Bitcoin puppets, right? So I want to put a quarter of a Bitcoin into the Bitcoin puppet pool. Is it that specific like that? Or do I, how does that kind of work from someone who wants to lend funds perspective?
Sure. So when you are on our page, on the lending part, you can click on create pool. At that point, you are going to create your own personalized pool. So you pick your favorite collection, the amount that you want to put in the pool, and the amount that you want to lend for each NFT. Because borrower could, for instance, use your pool with multiple ordinals at the same time. And this is something that already works, for instance, we allow us to interact with multiple pools and multiple ordinals in the same interaction.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm going through the motions right now on the live stream for those that are watching this. This is a very advanced type of DeFi protocol that you really see on mostly smart contracts. So it's cool that you guys are at least making, the attempt to do this and build it out. And also, I do agree previously that you want to polish the product off with, your alpha and beta testers before you do push a lot of marketing behind it. Moving past on the lending, because that seems to be, where your guys' experience and foundation is. That's like the whole premise of you guys' Cardano market. There's a new component to this that it does not exist on the Cardano one, which is the swap tool. And it looks like here, right, you have a handful of runes tokens, Doggo to the Moon, Satoshi, Epic, Arsic, and Decentralized. Give us just first the kind of the pitch of what the swap tool is. You have swaps, limits, and orders. And then how is the swap tool built? Is it in the same manner that the lending protocol is using Bitwise, or is it, I forget what the name was of the protocol. Are you using the same protocol for lending as you are for swaps, or did you have to build this in a different way?
Yeah, Bitweave. No, don't worry.
Bitweave, yes. Apologies.
No, so it's completely a different approach. So when we were studying runes, and actually because we were studying it for the lending part, but then we also noticed that there was really a lack of a good trading experience, at least compared to classic chains where everyone was used to trade. So we started to check how it was possible to trade runes in an easy way, or in a way that was more user-friendly. We learned a lot from the light pool paper proposed by Rod Armor. That was actually our main brick, the first one. And the first question that we asked ourselves is why, for instance, Magic Eden doesn't allow the second side of the order book. Like, you can create some sell orders, but you can't create buy orders. And the reason is technical. So the issue is this: since runes is a meta protocol, runes don't exist on the ledger. Like in the transaction, you cannot see them. We have the decoders for the OP code and so on, but on the chain you just see Bitcoin, right? So this means that if I create an offer that is offering some Bitcoin in exchange for runes, since runes are not on the ledger, you could fill this order with a fake rune because they are not verifiable on the chain directly. And this is the main reason that you have only one side of the order book on Magic Eden. Because instead, in the opposite case, if I am offering runes against Bitcoin, those Bitcoins are verifiable, and you can only fill that order if you are putting the amount that I'm asking for. So, yeah, you have a question, sorry.
No, I'm sitting here watching and listening. Building a swap tool for BRC20 seemed to be nearly impossible because no one really did it. The only one who attempted it was Unisat, and it went quite badly. It seems like they were trying to pull it out and fix it. Now it currently seems like there's kind of a race to get these, more sophisticated swap and AMM type products to the market, because this is what's going to attract all the liquidity, because this is what most traders are familiar with. Through the building experience of this, you guys, from my understanding, would be second to the market. I think DotSwap was first, but both have still limited adoption. What's like the major hurdle to building a swap tool that allows you to be kind of the second or third through the door, whereas many people have been trying to build this for a year and have really struggled?
Yeah, first of all, I would say that what we are trying to do is slightly different. So we are thinking in another manner. And the first problem is, right now you want to have a two-side order book in order to have a really nice swap experience. And the second thing, and I think that is one of the most important, I want to be able to trade the amount of Bitcoin or of runes that I want. I don't want to be limited to the orders that are there, to the bulk orders. Why should I purchase at least that amount of runes, right? And in this way, seller or buyers on our DEX can create limit orders that are a commitment, like I have this amount of runes and this is my price. It's very similar. This part is very similar to what Rod Armor proposed in the light pool approach. However, in his proposal, he said that every seller or buyer should run its own node to do this. In our case, instead of having multiple nodes, we are the main node. So when Jake arrive on our platform and want to swap directly, you can see what's the best price for the amount you want to swap. So this is very important, the amount that you want to swap. And you are able to create a transaction, a swap transaction, with the one that built that limit order on the other sense. And in this way, you sign your part, the other party get a notification for this interaction, and as soon as he signs, the swap happens.
It's interesting. I had a question, just getting a little bit away from this, just to learn a little bit about your background. What made you build on Cardano first? That's interesting. And then tell us what it was like when you actually produced something on Cardano. Were there users? Because we just don't get to talk, other than being lucky enough to talk to Charles a couple times. But what was it like being on Cardano? Because we don't get many people in, who are building on Cardano in our spaces. So tell us what it's like over there.
Yeah, we are kind of a unicorn here. So building on Cardano, it's been really an interesting experience, because this is actually what taught us so much on UTXO, and that allow us to be so fast on Bitcoin. And we started on Cardano because the vision regarding the decentralization, the proof of stake approach to be more, let's say, sustainable in terms of energy, and also for the community. The community on Cardano is very friendly and open in this sense. And at the very first, it was we struggled. Actually, we are having a deja vu right now on Bitcoin, because when we launched our product, nobody knew us. But as soon as we showcased the value that there was, and that using our platform could be really helpful for people to leverage their liquidity, and to rent NFT, for instance, when you say this is something really interesting, because with UTXO, the renting of assets is really, really easy compared to account models. But this is another topic. And right now, Cardano, for instance, is trying to adopt scalability, trying to get layer 2. And this is interesting, because this is what Bitcoin has already. So I think that there are a lot of interactions and possibilities between blockchains. And why we decided then to build on Bitcoin? Because we said our experience is good enough to deliver a proper value also on Bitcoin chain. We have the experience, and we saw some mistakes that happened on Cardano, for instance, that we would like to avoid on Bitcoin. And this is our major, let's say, reason to come here. And also, I would say that I will see more Cardano projects building on Bitcoin in the future, because with their experience, it would be a pity not to do it. And at the same time, I will probably also see some Bitcoin projects starting to explore some UTXO chains in order to, use smart contracts as additional layers on top of Bitcoin. And I don't think that there are many UTXO chains, and so Cardano could be one of these.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think you are actually the first Cardano builders that have made their way over. But when you think about it, it makes sense, right? Because it's built, they're both built off of the UTXO model here.
Yep. I mean, we all know almost all the early stuff that was built for ordinals was, BSV guys coming over and building. So it's good to see some Cardano guys coming over. Are you still building stuff on Cardano, or you're basically just letting what you've built kind of live there and have moved full time to Bitcoin now?
No, we are actually upgrading our interface, our smart contract. We are really proud, actually, of our user experience on the Bitcoin side. And we are trying to unify the platform together with the Cardano. So when you get to our app, you will have a simple toggle where you will be able to select the network. So Bitcoin, Cardano, or who knows what other chains in the next future.
Awesome.
Well, get ready for a little Bitcoin hate from the maxis. Just try to ignore that. Calling Cardano a shitcoin and all that sort of stuff. Just kind of go with it. That's my word of advice. don't take it too personal because it's not as friendly as over on Cardano. Over here on Bitcoin, it can get a little rough.
I also appreciate the transparency that you guys have put out there. You know, there's this kind of it's almost like this unspoken kind of thing that's happening where a lot of these DeFi protocols are using some sort of off-chain component again, right? Whether it's some sort of central server or a smart contract on another chain, but no one really discusses it. So you guys came out basically directly and saying, yeah, you know, it's almost impossible at this point to build completely on chain. And so this is basically what we're doing, and we're taking a different direction. You know, it's really tough to do that and then enter a new environment where you don't know what direction the hostilities are going to come from. I have a few more questions, and if anyone else has questions and would like to come on stage, please just either raise your hand or just send a request. This one is actually just a little bit more of a forward-thinking question. So far, you know, FluidTokens, from what I see, has a more advanced DeFi, I guess, roadmap or perspective, and you have some experience. What other type of you know, financial instruments or DeFi products do you plan to introduce to FluidTokens, or maybe something in the DeFi realm that is not even being looked at in the Bitcoin space that is something of your plan of attack?
Yes. So 2 things before I forget. Actually, Runes protocol is very DeFi friendly. Why? Because with BRC20, managing the assets, like the quantity, you know, you had to create the transfer inscription and use it around. But with Runes, you can do everything in the same transaction. So in the same transaction, I'm trying to do whatever I'm doing in my DeFi protocol, and can be really any protocol. I can already select the amount of Runes using in that transaction. So this is very helpful. And this is going to be leveraged, for instance, in our DEX, in our lending, that we will also tweet something in the next days. But also, when you think about this, in lending, what we are doing, you are giving away Bitcoin and giving as collateral Runes, or ordinals. But what happens if you give Runes as liquidity and Bitcoin as collateral? Essentially, you are able to short Runes or long Runes, because I can do even the opposite, purchase, get Bitcoin against my Runes and purchase more Runes. So this is something really new, at least. I'm not sure if there are already any protocol working on this, but this is something that comes for free, essentially, when you're building a kind of protocol like we are doing. It's an additional feature that maybe you didn't plan it at first, but it's there.
It's stumbling across new products. I do not believe there is a long or short protocol. I have seen something, I think it's called BitPerp, that people are building, but you know, the fact that, and we talk about this at Emblem a lot, as you build new products, you realize that you're building smaller products in between. They sometimes end up being a standalone thing, or sometimes even the more successful kind of idea.
Totally. I mean, I'm sure if you could short the whole Runes market right now, there would be a lot of buyers for that product right now. That'd be fun. I mean, and that's the kind of thing, you know, that that stuff. They love that stuff. You know, so you never know what. Just it's a great point, Jake. You never know what's going to be the thing that hits.
Never know. What's up, Dogfather?
Yeah, I love to hear these ideas with shorting stuff, because I think this is not there any already. So competing like with Liquidium on plain vanilla, like the NoteMonkey loan or the OMB loan, will be pretty hard. Because they're already quite established, and they have the user base, and everyone tried it out. It's like, see if it works. So that will be hard. So I think you need to come up with more innovative products. That's the number one thing. And then my main question was like, Liquidium just announced their Rune token to incentivize their users, because you were making points when you're lending and borrowing. So my question is, so how do you want to incentivize people to come over to you? Do you have also such a token or point program, or what are your perks how do you want to bring, the users to your platform?
Sure. So, first of all, I absolutely agree with your first point. We actually want to deliver new protocols, and I think that the way we are doing also with the lending part is showing it, since we are doing it differently than Liquidium, and I think that competition is good for the ecosystem. Like in this way, every user is able to get the best product, or even the product that is for his needs. Second, we actually launched a token on Cardano in January, and we are planning to, actually it's already in our roadmap, to convert it also in runes. So in this way, we can provide incentives not just on the Cardano side, but on the Bitcoin side. Furthermore, for instance, in our recent tweets, we have said that every user that is interacting with our beta DEX right now, we are making the list of the addresses that are testing it, that are creating these limit orders. Even if trading is not live, we are able to check who are joining and participating in our testing phase. So for sure,
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
No, so I just wanted to say that for sure our rule is coming, and is going to be 100% used for the community, used as a token utility in our platform, and let's see what more we can do with it.
What's your strategy for the team as far as like providing initial liquidity? Have you thought about doing something like that?
What is going to happen more probably is right now our token has already liquidity on a DEX. So we will probably migrate some of that liquidity in our DEX. In this way, people will be able to trade them. And at the same time, for instance, tomorrow our token is going to be listed on a centralized exchange. In this way, you will be able to trade on Bitcoin. You will be able to trade on Cardano, and even in a centralized exchange if you wish.
It's a definition of a fluid token, right? Going kind of back and forth. I like the product. It's just exciting to see builders coming in and trying to, attack this straight on. We don't know what's going to hit, right? Whether it's some sort of minting mechanism, a financial product, easy way to onboard new users, bridges. Right now it's pure chaos and everyone's kind of throwing stuff at the wall. So I applaud you for coming in and building it, and also for coming on the show and explaining everything. I'm following you on. I'm excited. I would love to go long and go short on some products, at least during this like very dull market, right? We need to create a pump dot fund for Adam on Bitcoin so that he comes back and doesn't spend as much time. We do have one other question. It looks like Hooked on Rooney's GM. Got any questions for FluidTokens?
Oh, hey guys, it's Dr. Palmer again, and I hope you're doing great. I missed the whole space, so if you could just start over from there, that would be great, because I really like that information, because I'm trying to refinance this Winnebago, and I think it would be a great tool if I could get that Winnebago sold and refinance on your platform. And I'm very excited that you're doing longs and shorts. My friend Kenny Griffin, he taught me how to get naked and do shorts. It's really great. You should check it out sometime. It feels very free. And it's called the Citadel nudist camp. You should stop by sometime, okay? And I just also wanted to let everybody know that the second coming has begun. The great jeetoning is about to begin. The great jeetoning is nigh, because that kitty cat guy is back for the second coming. He's here to save us all.
Well, can we hopefully I'll be able to short my Roonies,
No, don't do that now. Listen, you must really like those poor pains, okay? Don't do that. Don't do that. They just take a little time to kick in now. Okay.
All right. All right.
So hooked on Roonies, man. Man was on the Roonies all weekend. We did invite somebody on stage. Butcher, GMT, do you have a question for FluidTokens?
Yeah, I wanted to know with the migration, like I'm holding some wizard. How is that going to work? It'll just, as soon as the migration happens, it'll be available on Fluid Token, ready to trade, things like that.
So he's referring to Magic Internet Money. Will that be listed on FluidTokens? If you're familiar, are you familiar with Magic Internet Money, FluidTokens?
Sorry.
He was asking. I think he's essentially just asking, like, what's the listing process for new tokens? The one that he's referring to is Magic Internet Money. That's one of the popular pre-runes that's going to be migrating over here in the next week or two.
Okay. So yeah, regarding the migration in that sense, is since we already have a liquidity on that DEX, we can move it around here, and there will be already enough runes, let's say. Ideally 50-50, but it's going to be more, let's say, proportional to the community. And in this way, you will be able to trade without, having to worry about price impact or, in our case, impermanent loss, but it's not an AMM DEX. So there will be enough liquidity to trade safely without having to worry about what the price is going to be if my order does not submit or something like this.
And I'm just curious, like, what is the process for listing new tokens on the swap component of FluidTokens? Is it something that the team has to go to you to get whitelisted, or is it just first come, first serve through whatever the sign up process is or registration process?
So right now we use a very advanced tool that is called Discord, and every project that would like to list, they just can. There is a channel dedicated for that, and we add new runes to our list, whitelist, let's say.
Very advanced tool, I have to say. Discord, very, very advanced. But you have another question?
Yeah, this is kind of just a general question. Whoever can answer it. But I'm from like the poor people chains like Solana and AVAC, and I see BTC Summer as being like a really pivotal moment for BTC and its culture. And I want to participate. Is there any like ways you guys plan on speeding up, let's say, transaction times or things like that?
Fix your blockchain, Satoshi.
It's scary though. It's like you got $4 or $5 grand because you have to play with a lot of money on BTC, and then you don't know whether or not it went through or not. It's like it's kind of nerve-wracking.
Sure.
Oh, it'll go through. The transaction gets dropped, I believe, after 2 weeks if you don't put the
2 weeks.
I believe it's 2 weeks. Welcome to Bitcoin, my friend.
Yeah, man.
Welcome to Bitcoin. Yeah, you got to work within the constraints of the 10-minute block time. Here, if you're listening to the conversation earlier, FluidTokens uses something called PSBTs, which speeds up that process. It does add a degree of centralization to it, but PSBTs is how a lot of the marketplaces and everything operates, because if you had to wait for 6 confirmations for every transaction, you'd have to go back to counterparty, and we know exactly how the dispensers worked. It did not work very well for trading and liquidity components.
All right, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's not going to get fixed, man. It's just, a little bit better versions, but the blockchain's the blockchain. It's slow, man.
Yeah.
Feature, not a bug, right?
It's a feature.
Yeah, Bitcoin is Bitcoin, though. I mean, there'll always be faster chains, newer chains, whatever, but there'll only be one Bitcoin.
And you're probably not going to get rugged for $5 like on Pumped Up Funds. So there's that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here you get rugged for thousands. That's the way.
Yeah, high stakes.
High
So
stakes.
you get rugged in slow motion, though. That's
it is slow mo.
You watch it as it all goes through. Well, if there's no other questions, I think we'll wrap it up here. FluidTokens, we'd really appreciate you for coming on and giving a really in-depth explanation and you're able to answer every question on the nose. I'm excited to see what follows through here and to see some of these new and innovative products, as we talk about on the show very consistently. There are some major players in the game. There are, BRC20 companies that are basically just moving over to Runes and applying the same thing that they had done for BRC20. But right now, in this time of less volatility in the market, kind of consolidating, this is where you have the opportunity to really introduce a cool and innovative product and build a strong community and have time to, conversate with them and figure out the bugs and be ready for the next leg up. So it'll be interesting next, few months to however long this period takes. Roonies, you got one final comment question to close us out here?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say, Jake, I'm going to get through that icy exterior of yours, and we're going to be best friends. Okay. But I just want to let FluidToken know that I'm available when your marketing starts. If you need a spokesperson to get the word out, I'm available. You just reach on out. We'll be under the bridge. And the blockchain we work on is Cinder blocks. So I'm available. Just reach on out.
All right.
Thanks a lot. We will think about it.
All right. So without further ado, I appreciate everyone who's come through. If you guys don't know, Adam, myself, and Chris, who are on stage, who work at Emblem Vault, the leading cross-chain NFT protocol in the industry. We host the show Tuesday through Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Please make sure that you give everyone on stage a follow. We'll be back tomorrow. We're featuring .swap and their CEO, which was the first kind of AMM that I'd seen for Runes pop up. So we'll be another fun DeFi on Bitcoin conversation. And then Thursday, we have our Inscription show covering everything from stamps to Doginals, Litecoin ordinals, Bellinals, Hashnals, everything under the sun. In terms of meta protocols and UTXO chains, we are covering it. I guess Escriptions fits into that as well. FluidTokens, any final comments before we close it up and wrap it up here?
So first of all, thanks everyone for this opportunity. Thanks, really appreciate your DM inviting in this space. And for the ones that are going to Ordinal Lisbon or to Bitcoin Nashville, see you there. We are going to be there.
Awesome. Heard it here first. All right, everybody. Appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time with .swap. Until then, stay safe out there and stonk on.